Okay, so today you're going to be designing a trinket, a keychain, a paperweight, or something for your business. You'll notice I have a couple examples here. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, I have one that I did hand drawn. I added a shape and some text. I have another one where I started with a circle and I did some cutouts. And I have another one where I just found some cool shapes and I put them together. So let's see how to do this. Okay, I'm going to go into Tinkercad and I'm going to create a new 3D design. Once I'm in there, I'm going to rename it immediately. Okay, my company name is Villains Inc. and I'm going to make a keychain. So I'm going to give it a file that makes sense. Okay, so a couple different ways you can do this. You could go into the scribble tool and you could create whatever shape you want. Okay, excuse me, sorry about that. So I could create my V for Villains Inc. like this. And once I have that done, I can mark it as done, and that shape will show up on my work plane. So remember, I can change my height by clicking and dragging. Right now we're in millimeters. I'm going to stay in millimeters. You can move to inches if you'd like. But if you grab a ruler, you can check to see what your size is. If I click on this edge, it's telling me that, just move this over here a little bit. If I click on this, it's telling me that it is 27 millimeters wide so far. And let's hide this. And it is 27.8 millimeters in that direction. So if I 3D printed this, it would come out looking exactly like that. Let's say I wanted to fill it. I'd have to double click and go back into this image, and I'd have to do some coloring and fill it. Okay, so you could take your time and fill it. If you make a mistake, you can erase something. So I don't like this line here. I'm going to just erase that and mark it as done. Okay, and you can see how you could create a design like that. Okay, so that's option one. Okay, option two, we're going to create something, and we're going to, we'll do 2 and 3 at the same time. So we're going to create one that is going to look like it's cut out of a shape. So I'm going to choose a cylinder. Now remember, when you choose a shape, if you hold down the Shift key and grab an edge, you'll keep it as a circle rather than making it egg-shaped. Okay, when I resize it, it's going to make it really big. So I'm going to bring the height down to probably about 7. Okay, what I could do next is I could grab my V and I could change it to be a hole. And if I grouped both of those objects together, I would get a cutout. Okay. Think about this when it's 3D printed. We're going to be 3D printing 2 different objects here, the circle with the cutout and that inside of the V. Okay, that is not what I want to do for this example. So I'm going to ungroup it. I'm going to move this V out of the way, and I'm going to do a little searching. Okay, so I'm going to go out to Google and I'm going to look for the letter V. Okay, I'm going to find a V that I like. So let's scroll. Found a really cool one before. I might have to change my search criteria a little bit. And I'm going to say here in my tools, I'm going to search for clip art. Oops, type clip art. And I'm going to just look for black and white. Okay, and I'm going to find a view that I like. Oh, I like this one. So I'm going to grab it. Okay, I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to save the image, and I'm going to just call it V so I can find it later. Okay, it's going to go into my downloads folder. And now I'm going to bring you to this really cool website. So this website is a website that you can use to convert pictures to SVGs. You can import SVGs into Tinkercad. You can't import JPEGs or PNGs. So when you go to picsvg.com, you're going to upload a picture. And here's my V. I'm going to upload that. And when I scroll down, I see my V. Okay, so there's different ways that you can set this up, and this is choosing an edge. I'm going to choose an internal so that I get the whole thing, okay, because I want this to be either a whole object that's filled in, or I want it a cutout. And then I'm going to choose to download that SVG. Going back to Tinkercad, I'm going to go to the import, and I'm going to find that SVG file that I just downloaded. So just because I want to be able to find this later, I'm going to rename this v.svg. Okay, I'm going to choose it, and it says it's going to make it 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters. That's really kind of big, so I'm going to make it 50% of that. The bigger the file is that you import, the harder it is to work with because you're going to have to resize it, and also the longer it's going to take. Okay, so here's my V. It's still really big. So I'm going to scroll out. I'm going to select my V, hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to drag it in. Okay, it looks like it's hidden, but no worries. Whoops, undo. No worries, it's still there. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit taller. Okay, so I have my V. Okay, I'm also going to look because Villains Inc. has that cool looking V, and I'm also going to do a Google search for something like, how about Maleficent horns. Okay, so again, I want to go to my tools. I'm in images. I want to choose a clip art picture, not a photograph, and I want to find one that I like the way it looks, and then one that I don't have to pay for. Okay, so let's see. This one's kind of nice. Let's see if I can grab it. So I'm going to save this image as, and I'm going to call this horns. And let's see if this one works out well. Okay, I'm going to go back to my picsvg.com and scroll up. I'm going to upload that picture. It's right here. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. I don't want the outline. I actually want an internal. So I could experiment with the different internals and see which one I like better, but I like this one. So let's download this as an SVG. Okay, it's downloaded. Let's go back to Tinkercad and let's do an import. So I'm going to choose that new SVG that I just saved. I'm going to rename it and call it horns so that I can find it later. And I'm going to choose it. Okay, it's going to be pretty big, so let's make it like 50%. I could probably make it even smaller than that. And let's import it in. Okay, here it is. So hold to my Shift key, because if I don't hold my Shift key, I might distort it. So I'm going to undo what I just did and hold my Shift key and drag it. Okay, so now, let's get this out of the way. So now I have this really cool looking V for Villains Inc. I have these Maleficent horns because, you know, she's a really cool villain. And I'm just kind of putting them together. Notice I have them at different heights. The reason why I'm doing this is because when we 3D print it, if it's different heights, it'll be much more three-dimensional and we'll be able to see it. So right now it's just a trinket. It's just a paperweight. But if I wanted to make it into a keychain, there's a couple different things I could do. So I could find a shape that looks like this, or I could choose a shape, any shape that I like. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to drag out a cylinder, okay? And I'm going to create my own cylinder with a hole in it so I could put a keychain in it. Okay, so I have my cylinder selected, and I'm going to duplicate it. Okay, and when I do that, I have two cylinders. So I want to make my second cylinder be a hole inside the first one. So again, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. I'm going to make it smaller, and I'm going to make it tall. Now remember, I'm turning it into a hole, so a hole is nothing. So I'm going to make it even taller. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Oops. Sometimes you have to rotate your screen to see what you're doing very easily. Okay, I'm moving it. Undo. Click off of it. Click on it. Okay, and I'm going to hold this and I'm going to make it smaller. Okay, so now I can put it inside of my cylinder, but I might not get it exactly even. So I'm going to show you another tool. If I click and drag around both of my objects, or I click on one and I hold down, let's see, I don't remember if it's the shift key or the control key to get the other one. I can get both my objects. Okay, so I'm going to click and drag around them and I'm going to group them together. Okay, when I look at that, my circle is a little off center. So let's ungroup it and let's click and drag around it. And this time we're going to align it. I'm going to say align it in the center in this direction and in this direction, which it already is. I can click and drag around and group them. Okay, so now I have something to hang it with. I'm going to bring this down. This is the least important part of my design. Oops. It's the least important of my design, so I don't want to make it really tall. Okay, I'm going to drag it over here and I'm going to make sure it's touching and overlapping. Okay, I can use the arrow key to do that. Okay, and I want to make sure that everything is overlapping so that when I 3D print it, I get one object. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. So let's click and drag around everything and group it together. And now I have a really cool keychain for my company, Villains Inc. Okay, I'm going to get rid of this. And I like this design, but I want to show you another method. Okay, so let's just move that out to the side. All right, again, I'm going to start with this circle, and I'm going to import my two items. So I'm going to import my cool looking V. Okay, I'm going to make it a lot smaller. Let's try making it 30% of the size. Okay, which I'm probably going to want to make that even smaller. And I'm going to just move it out of the way. Okay, and then I'm going to import my horns. And I'm going to make that a lot smaller. Let's make it like 30% of the size. Okay, and there's my horns. Okay, I'm going to take a look at my cylinder, and that is 73 by 73. So the diameter is 73 millimeters, which is not bad. So we're going to leave that. But I'm going to have to resize these. So I'm going to resize this down. Holding the shift key, I'm going to resize this down. And I'm going to make them both holes and tall. Okay, so I'm going to make that a tall hole. And I'm going to make, let's click on you. Make that a hole and make it tall. The reason, oops, undo. If that happens, just undo. Okay, I'm going to drag it up to make it tall. Okay, if you then drag this in, so I'm going to use my V. I think it needs to be a little bit smaller. So my V is going to go here, and my horns are going to go here. And this time they don't have to touch. They can touch, but they don't have to. So let's make that a little bit smaller, and let's zoom in. Okay, I'm going to move this over a little. Remember, you can use the arrow keys, make it really easy, and I don't want anything hanging off the edge. Okay, so let's select the entire design and group it. Okay, and now I have cutouts in this medallion. If I wanted to make this into a keychain, I could very easily drag the cylinder or any other shape tool over. I'm going to make that loop a little bit smaller. Okay, I'm going to eyeball it and move it here, but I want to get it in the center of from left to right. So I'm going to click and drag the entire part of my design that I want. I'm going to click on the align and I'm going to say center that up like that and then group it. And now I have another style of keychain that starts like this and is a cutout. So your choice for your company, Find some letters, find some symbols. If you'd like to use the scribble tool and draw your own, your job today is to create a keychain or a trinket or a coin or a paperweight or anything you would like that's inspired by your business. Okay, good luck and be creative.